This meeting is being recorded.
All right. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Spoken Truth. I go by the name of Danny.
I'm Chaz.
Sunday.
And on today's episode, we're going to talk about everything NBA playoffs, the Nuggets advancing to their first NBA Finals and their club's history. We're going to get into the NBA draft. We're going to get into LeBron. We're going to get into the Boston Celtics. We're going to get into Jimmy freaking Butler. We're going to get into all of that going on right now. But first, I want to start with the Denver Nuggets. Like I said before, I just said that they've reached the NBA Finals for the first time in their team history, sweeping the Los Angeles Lakers. Chaz, what did the Nuggets prove? Because there's been so much talk about this team not getting the respect that they deserve. I think a lot of that had to do with their coach giving them an edge of, like nobody's respecting you. So that's the edge that they had in this series. But what did the Nuggets show you in this series?
To me, they show that they're the best team in the league. Obviously, they're going to the finals. They're going to be the favorite, presumably against the Miami Heat. But to me, they show that they are clear-cut the best team in the league. The way that they are connected on offense, with Jokic being able to get the ball to everybody in the place that they need it. Murray playing at this level, which we haven't seen since obviously before the back-to-back injuries that he suffered. Michael Porter Jr. taking a significant step. I think Aaron Gordon's he's become an all-around player that he never really was in the past. And then, you have Michael Malone, I think, really coming into his own as a coach. I just think it's all happening for this team at once. Like you said, they were a little underrated for being the number one seed with a two-time MVP. They weren't getting as much attention as the Lakers, as the Warriors, as the Suns, and some other teams as well in the Eastern Conference. But now, heading into the NBA Finals, I don't think people can argue that there's another team out there that's better than them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thunder.
We're going to be using this phrase a lot today. For anyone who might be watching, I saw Trae Young steal this as an Instagram caption from James Harden. Your apology needs to be as loud as the disrespect was. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the central theme of probably the whole episode today. Your apology needs to be as loud as the disrespect was. There was a lot of disrespect to the Denver Nuggets this whole season. Lots of disrespect towards Nikola Jokic. Y'all heard like the MVP conversation and people saying, what is it going to look like in 25 years if Nikola Jokic wins a third MVP? As if it's somehow his fault that he never misses games and performed at an elite level. And then has proceeded to be the best player in the league over the course of this postseason and is averaging a triple-double in the playoffs on stupid efficiency. And then people watched like the last month and a half of the Nuggets coasting. Mind you, coasting because they wrapped up the 1 seed really early, which is a good thing, and then said, yeah, this team ain't on shit. I'm just kind of confused as to why people are surprised that they got here more than anything else. That's a damn good basketball team. Nikola Jokic is incredible. Jamal Murray, I like Jamal Murray is a huge difference maker in the playoffs. And it turns out that when the Nuggets don't have to start for Ku Campazzo, who is not in the NBA anymore, things look very different. Who would have thunk it? Yeah. Also, shout out to Michael Never Swing the Rock Porter for for doing things other than catching and shooting the ball. He played really nice defense. As much as I call him Never Swing the Rock, he swung the rock, made the extra pass in a lot of key moments in this Western Conference Finals that helped him get there.
Yeah, I think them being a number 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken, they kind of pretty sure they wrapped that up in maybe February of like they just want to have that seed locked down. And I wasn't the guy that took stock into them taking that time off during the tail end of the regular season. But obviously I had the Warriors coming out of this conference. but I wouldn't say it was disrespectful towards Denver. I just feel like that the Warriors had an all-time great player. And I'm not saying that Denver isn't a great team because turns out they proved me wrong being the most complete team in basketball. So from top to bottom,
Yeah.
from the coach to everything, like they deserve to be where they are. I have to say, and I'm a man of my word. So when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. I was wrong about Nikola Jokic. I was
Yes.
wrong about Nikola Jokic. I said he wasn't a number one guy. He's a number one guy.
I don't. Yes.
I said he wasn't a number one, that he couldn't be the best player on the championship team. That was a lie. Like, I take full accountability of saying that he isn't a number one guy. We're going to get into a little later where he ranks of the best players currently, but just a masterpiece. The things that he was able to do in this series, the way that he dictate pace, he reminds me so much of Luka, is that you can't speed him up or slow him down. They go at their own pace. The circuit shots they was able to make, it just, I've never seen a big guy have that much kiss at the rim. I've never seen a guy be able to shoot like so soft the way he can, that size. Like
That's interesting.
I can't make a comparison of how he could be so aggressive going to the rim, but getting to the rim and laying the basket up is so soft. Like I can't compare it to any player that I've ever seen. So he brings a different dynamic like to the game of basketball, like from the three, from inside to going inside, like you cannot stop him. And I think what this proved in this Lakers series is that this guy is one of one. Like he is a guy that is your point forward. He's bringing the ball up. He can do everything. He only knock you could potentially say is that he don't block enough shots, or his defense can be improved, and he can improve on his defense a little bit. That's the only knock that you can possibly say right now in his game. And there's superstars that's in the league right now that are not known for their defense. Steph's not known for being a defender. Kevin Durant's not known for being a defender. These are still top players in basketball. So we have to give him that same nod, even though he's not an all-world defender. And the last thing before I let you guys respond, Joel Embiid need to FedEx that MVP trophy to Nikola Jokic expeditiously. Now it needs to be there tomorrow. I don't need standard shipping. I don't need 4 to 5 days. I need it to be in his front door between 1 and 2 business days. Because you done took that man's MVP trophy.
So can we just talk about that real quick? Because one of the central plots of people this year, and this shit was always crazy to me, but people were like, we're going to give Nikola Jokic another MVP trophy. What has he done in the playoffs? But that was being used as an argument to prop up a player who has had demonstrably less playoff success than him in Joel Embiid, somebody who's, unfortunately, for whatever reason, quite literally never been healthy during the playoffs, and has also, like, the next minute Joel Embiid plays in a conference finals game will be his first. So, none of that ever made sense. I just, people were being ridiculous this whole year. It would make me very happy if the Nuggets would just finish the job here, so we never have to hear this again. And then we can just appreciate an incredible basketball player. But also that's quite interesting that, he reminds you of Luka. I don't really see what would be the similarity there.
No, what I mean by that is I'm not comparing our style of game. I'm saying you can't slow Luka, you can't speed him up or slow him down. He goes at his tempo. That's the Euro style of basketball. You can't slow down Nikola Jokic or speed him up. They go at their pace,
Real first guy in, last guy out, gritty lunch pail kind of basketball. 800 credit score kind of basketball. Ankle socks kind of basketball. I got you.
I know you knew what I was talking about. I know you knew.
Nah. I'm fucking with you. I'm just talking shit. Nikola Jokic is. There's so many things I can go in on: the playmaking, the rebounding, the fact that he's an absolute bear to handle on the glass. We could talk about the shooting. He is like you mentioned, Dan. He's got the best touch of any big man I've ever seen. We could talk about the post moves. We could talk about the passing a second time because he's the best passing big man in the history of the game of basketball. But the shot making is special. And it's funny because we saw him make it several times over the course of this Western Conference Finals, the Sombor Shuffle, which if you didn't know what it was, you could probably figure out what shot I'm talking about. The fucking ridiculous ones. One, in the words of Patrick Ewing, step back one-legged, but he does work on that shot. Because it's a shot he's been making consistently for the last 3 years. It never gets any less ridiculous. And it really feels a lot like what we've seen over the course of LeBron's playoff career, where he hits these just shots where that there is no defense for, because he's 7 feet tall with a high release, and he's shooting them while leaning back off one leg. And you see everybody else on the court, especially the man guarding him, just deflate. It's basically his version of a "lay fuck you" three. That's best player in the world type shit.
I think when I went back ago when we were having this conversation about is he a number one? Well, I was saying who's the number one option, who's not. I think the point that I've always made, and I never deviated from this standpoint, is that you don't have to win a title for me to consider you a number one. You just have to do what he did in the postseason. It doesn't even have to equate to you winning the series. It doesn't have to equate to you getting to the finals. Being that dominant, being able to show your skill set, your package, that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't always have to equate to a finals MVP or a championship or a Western Conference Finals. It doesn't have to equate to that type of success on a higher level because it's a team game. But basketball is one of the only sports where, when it comes down to it, individuals stand out the most. The superstars stand out from everybody else because they have the ability to take over a game if it needs to be taken over. So what Nikola Jokic did was, it doesn't even matter that they won. It's the fashion in which he displayed his dominance in different ways in every single game. Whether it was, I'm not saying you got to get a triple-double, I'm not saying you got to score 30, but his imprint was on every single shot that the Denver Nuggets had. He didn't even have to touch the ball. It's his screens. It's all of the attention that is drawn towards him. All of that matters when you're talking about these all-time great players. And he has to be considered. We're going to get into a little later, but you have to start talking to him in a light where we're talking about the best players in this league. And we wasn't talking, well, I personally wasn't ready to say that a year ago, but I don't know what's the difference now between talking about Nikola Jokic in the same breath for talking about Giannis. We have to be fair personally. We have to start being fair.
And in fairness to this discussion, I guess, I just want to there hasn't been a difference in Nikola Jokic being in that conversation for a couple years now. Yeah. So the Nuggets made the conference finals in 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
2020 was also the last time before this year, 2023, that Jamal Murray got to participate in a playoff run for Denver. And again, I'm not sure why this was a tough thing for people, but people watched Denver have to go into playoff games starting Facu Campazzo and Austin Rivers, and then said, yeah, this Jokic cat ain't on shit. He's not that good, which is crazy. Um, the last two times the second best player on the roster has been healthy, they've made the conference finals. Like I just and the thing that's sad is like if Denver doesn't win the championship, we're gonna keep doing this same song and dance, or a lot of people will. It's pretty silly.
I
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie. Like I watch basketball whenever it's on. Like even my team and me and my dad always get into arguments. Like I don't understand why he don't understand is that just because I like a specific team does it not mean that I'm not going to watch every team. Like you think just because I like a certain team, like I'm supposed to just watch their games. Like that never made sense to me, anyways. That's a knock at my dad because that doesn't even make sense. But like I I'm not gonna lie, I didn't forget, but I think a lot of us were under the impression that Jamal Murray that was an anomaly. Like 2020, like can he do that again? Or like I forgot how good he was. Like I forgot that he could be this good on that level. Like and it can be sustainable because we haven't saw him 100% in what 2 years, 2.5 years now. Ever in 2020, ever since the bubble. So like people have that short term memory of like, well, what have you done for me lately, and forgot what he did 2 years ago. So I'm not gonna lie and act like I know that he can ball, but I just forgot how good he actually is. And I think this was a perfect opportunity to display in prime time that, oh, this isn't what you just in 2020. Because people were calling him, and I would never say, yeah, this is Bubble Murray. Like, I feel like that's disrespectful to him. Like, because you saying that I only played an anomaly, like I only played my best basketball in a confined area in the space for that period of time. Like that's him. So I think he earned not even saying he has to earn people respect, but people know Denver now. And I don't think that was the case even in 2020. Like a lot of people still wasn't introduced to like, oh, that's Denver. Like I don't think a lot of people cared. Like now that they're doing it again, you're like, okay, now you're forced to pay attention because now they facing LeBron, and now people like LeBron now. Like, oh, so you're not saying like, oh, they're a good team. Like, oh, but if they wasn't playing LeBron, would you care as much? You know. So I still think that's where Mike Malone he still has that point of like, we don't get the respect that we deserve because you're only paying attention because we're playing an all-time great player. But what if we were playing someone like I don't fucking know somebody that's not on that caliber, in the Western Conference. Would you care? You know, would you think the same that you've always thought about, this team? So I think it's interesting to see if they win a championship, like what will be the narrative next year going into the season? Like, can this team do it again? If they bring everybody back, can they do it again? I will be anxious to see who they favorite next year.
Yeah, Danny, I think a lot of people were in the same boat as you, where it took them a while with this team. And part of that was the Jamal Murray bubble run going into not seeing him for back-to-back years. But I thought it was just kind of strange how people kind of thought that was a fluke for Murray.
Mhm.
When there were a lot of guys in the bubble, like Donovan Mitchell, that came out of that kind of taking a next step, and people thought of him now as one of the best scoring guards in the league. And Murray didn't exactly get that same treatment. I think if he was healthy over the last 2 years, the Nuggets probably would have had a run like this. I'm not saying they would have won it all. I'm not saying they would have got to the finals, but they would have had another deep run that proved that they were one of the contenders in the West.
But I think that was the problem, though, is that he balled out and then disappeared.
Yeah, but I mean that's not his fault.
Not to his fault, yeah. And I'm not blaming him. But I'm
Yeah.
saying that's what it was. Like he balled out in the bubble, he disappeared. Donovan Mitchell, he balled out and was playing again the next season.
But
And
why did people think that when Murray was healthy that he wouldn't be that same player?
That's a good question.
I think Murray's always been this player, and it just so happened that right in the thick of his prime, he had to take 2 years off in a row. I mean, nobody's really going to be able to compete at the same level if they don't have their starting point guard. And I mean, I'm not saying Murray is on the same level as Mitchell or anything like that. I think he's probably in that next tier, but the's no doubt that he is a perfect match with Jokic. and that I think if they were healthy, they would have competed for championships the last 2 years. Now that they are healthy, and with the addition of Michael Porter Jr. taking a significant step and filling out the roster with KCP, Bruce Brown, I just think that this team is really having it all coming together right now. Now going back to what you guys were saying about Jokic, um, Danny, I got to give you credit because I think a lot of people wouldn't be able to admit that they were totally off on a guy like that. I remember when we had that conversation about Jokic, I said that in like 2 years there could be a chance that he'd be the best player in the league, and that was kind of a hot take. I think people saw him a level below those guys, but I think now, I think it's good that you've come around to that. Tunde, I believe you're in the same boat that we all think that this is one of the 2 or 3 best players in the league, if he's not the best. And that's not something that people were saying, I think, a few years ago. But I mean, you go through a playoff where you're averaging 29, 13, and 10 on, I think, 52% from the field, 47% from three. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. In that closeout game against the Lakers, he had 30, 14, and 13. Clearly the best player on the court. I mean, there's really just nothing you can do about him. Like you said, Danny, there are limitations on defense, but if we're talking offense, he's a complete player. I don't think there's any flaws in his offensive game.
Yeah. Sunday?
I do just want to be clear here that I've been saying for the entire time that we've been recording this show that Nikola Jokic deserves to be in the best player in the league discussion. So this is not new. The basketball, the basketball that he's been playing has been this. Just it took team success to get people to finally admit what he's been doing for years. That's what this is.
Yeah.
For one reason or another. For one reason or another, they didn't want to. People have not wanted to give him the credit he deserves. Yeah, and I mean, again, you guys have been here the last few years, so you can attest to the fact that we have gotten into this discussion several times, and I think you all know exactly how I feel and what I think. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty common thing for NBA media, or maybe just sports media in general, that people take a second to really hop on somebody all the way if they haven't won a championship or if they haven't got to the finals or whatever the case may be. But to me, there were so many factors within those last couple of years that were deciding why they weren't able to compete at that level. And Jokic, it had nothing to do with him. I mean, he's been one of the best players in the league for the last few years. But now I just think it's great that everybody's starting to celebrate it instead of trying to look at how can we tear this guy down.
Yeah.
Can we do this for everybody? Just in general? This isn't to you necessarily to you guys, but just sport, basketball fans in general. Can we appreciate greatness as it holds in front of us and stop trying to find reasons to dislike everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Anything else on the Nuggets?
I would like to know real quick, no matter what, do you guys think the Nuggets take it? No matter who they face?
Yeah, I mean, I can't take the Heat lightly again. I've done it like 3 series in a row. I've done it like 3 years in a row pretty much, or 2 years in a row. And then the year before that as well in the bubble. But at this point, I'm not going to say that they can't compete. I'd probably go Denver in 6 right now.
Okay. Sunday? Doesn't matter who they face, Denver?
I felt coming into the conference finals both ways that the winner of the West was going to be the team that won the title. So yeah, I mean, Denver won the West. I feel pretty good that they win the finals. I think the series looks different. I guess if they're playing the Celtics versus if they're playing the Heat, but Denver should win either way.
All right. Got to do it on the Nuggets.
Yeah, Danny?
Yep.